Hi, everybody. I am author historian Jay Jennings, and this distinguished gentleman is.
Hi, I'm Courtney Joyner, proud permanent resident of Visaria.
House of Dracula, and 1945, directed by Earl C. Kenton, and features several of Universal horror properties meeting as they did in House of Frankenstein. Set at a castle home of Dr. Franz Edelman, who was visited by the Count Dracula, and of course later by Larry Talbot, the Wolfman, who were trying to cure his vampirism and his lycanthropy, respectively. Talbot cannot be cured unless, I guess, well, wait a minute. He can't be cured, but she leads him to discover the body of Frankenstein's monster in a cave below the base of the castle. Edelman takes the monster's body back to his laboratory, and I guess played by Glenn Strange, and but unfortunately finds Count Dracula has awoken, and by attacking his assistants, he captures Edelman and forces a reverse blood transfusion, which gives Edelman a split personality that likes to wreak havoc when those are around him, kind of like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Let's see if we can show. Yeah, there's Dr. Edelman, who went from being a nice, calm old man to a kind of a crazy Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde part. Anyway, the film was originally going to be called Wolfman versus Dracula, and it was to be directed by Ford Beebe, another great horror director. With Lugosi was going to play Dracula, but I guess Karloff returned for a two-picture deal, and there was several requests from the censorship board, and the film was on hold for about 6 months, and then House of Dracula went into production. There's the scene when Baron Latos again says, "By the way, I have my coffin is in your basement, in case you didn't know." And so anyway, the screenplay again by Edward T. Lowe, who took the elements of the Wolfman versus Dracula script.
I think one of the cool things that Edward T. Lowe and probably Earl Kenton, what they had done here with House of Dracula is they found a way to have a storyline where everything is actually integrated together. That this one doctor is dealing with all of the monsters, has basically a cure or a surgical procedure that will work for all of the monsters. And so the story isn't divided into sections the way it was in House of Frankenstein, where it literally is the Dracula section, then a pause, and then Frankenstein and the Wolfman. So everything in House of Dracula comes together as an integrated whole. And so for a lot of people, the structure of House of Dracula actually is superior to House of Frankenstein.
Yes, Edward T. Lowe knew about his characters because he had written previously kind of the same characterizations and the same plot, so he knows what directions they're going in. Because many of the same cast and crew members, Carradine, Glenn Strange, Chaney, Talbot, they're all back. And it went into production September 17th, 45, and it was only 3 weeks, I think, of shooting. It ended October 24th, so it was a quick schedule. A lot of sections were used from previous music, from other movies, sets, and props. And it is probably the final serious entry to the Frankenstein saga. Unfortunately, it received a lot of negative reviews at the time in its New York screenings, Court. Some were lukewarm and stuff. You think maybe because people were trying to compare it to the Frankensteins and the Draculas, or what do you think the mindset was of the audience?
I think so. I think it was a case of critics feeling that Universal had gone to the well one too many times. There was also, too, this was a film that was produced by Joseph Gershenson, who was one of the music supervisors at Universal. He wanted to be a producer, and in fact, he would later produce Monster on the Campus for the studio.
Right. So give us your overall take on what you think about the film and how it played, and maybe how it compared to those days to modern audiences, but the overall look and feel of the film.
I think House of Dracula has got wonderful, wonderful stuff in it. And it's, again, because it isn't segmented the way House of Frankenstein is. I'm comfortable with that structure. It has some terrific minor little highlights going along, such as Cheney's jumping off the cliff, which I believe was stuntman Kerry Lofton doing that dive into the ocean, which is a wonderful moment. Uh, we have here, we're seeing Carradine with Martha O'Driscoll, who would co-star with Lon Chaney in When the Daltons Rode, excuse me, The Daltons Ride Again, which was the other half of the double bill when House of Dracula was released. So it wasn't even released with another horror film; it was released with a western. And this is a wonderful moment, I think, when Onslow Stevens, who, of course, the general in them is the psychiatrist in the couch, and just a superior actor. It's his casting as the doctor, to me, is very much on par with Stanley Ridge's being cast in the part of the gangster with the transplanted brain in Black Friday. That Universal hired this wonderful character actor to now be a part of their monster universe. And his scenes with Lon Chaney are particularly good and very affecting and touching. It's This is a great moment here where Cheney is actually taking advantage of the doctor. He reverses the blood transfusion to turn the doctor into a monster, and is going to run away with Martha O'Driscoll as his newest, more beautiful victim. And to show the, if you will, the effects of the blood transfusion. And John Carradine sits up and he hypnotizes Jane Addams, and she is overwhelmed by his powers. There's a wonderful thing with a glass filter over the lens that shifts. The screen is split in half, and then it shifts over so it's completely blurred as she faints. This is a beautifully done scene. What we're seeing here, of course, so John Carradine would not be in the shot, is there's a mirror frame, but it's blank. There's nothing there, and that is a duplicate of this other side of the set. So that's just a giant hole. A double for Martha O'Driscoll is towards camera with Carradine, and that's the real Martha O'Driscoll behind her on the other side of the wall, so that you actually see her in the reflection, quote unquote, the phony reflection, as Carradine escorts the double out of the shot. It's beautifully done. But in this way, to have Martha O'Driscoll on the other side of this false set, you get to see her face, even though there is nobody with her. And of course, it's Carradine being invisible.
All right, and talk about the shadows that Earl C. Canton uses.
Yeah, well, here, just like you and I had always said, the use of the large shadows as a kind of a terrifying imagery, and the persona, this evil that is coming for these victims. This is very, very similar to what he did with the Manimals in Island of Lost Souls.
Right, and even it continues in the part where he strangles Jane.
And this is also a pretty brutal moment. He throws her into the pit, and she just tumbles in, and it's a little shocking, actually, because it is very violent. And also, it's violence against a character for whom we have the most sympathy.
Oh, absolutely. And also, we wanted to throw in someone that we both love, and that's character Skelton Nags, who is featured predominantly as I guess his brother was killed by Dr. Edelman because they found, I guess, one of his charms in his hand, and Dr. Edelman killed my brother.
That's right.
So tell us about Skelton. I know he's a favorite of yours. Tell us about Skelton.
And, my friend Lawrence Tierney really likes Skelton Nags. They did a few films together, including The Ghost Ship. And I'd ask him about Skelton Nags. He never went into a great deal of detail, but he goes, I like that Skelton Nags. He was a good guy.
Very interesting face. It's like one of those faces, uh, that's made for kind of horror films.
And this might be absolutely shocking to everyone, but I believe he died of cirrhosis of the liver. I think you can kind of surmise that.
Right, I think he did. Now, Dr. Neiman, or Dr. Eidelman, jumped around houses, and it was actually stuntman Kerry Lofton who did all of Onslow's jumping and running down the street.
And yeah, this could for Cheney. I had mentioned Kerry Lofton. It may very well have been Gil Perkins. I'm
Oh, okay.
who
I thought
doubled
I
in
thought they
driving
mentioned it
off the
was stunt
porch.
double Kerry Lofton, but then again, I could be wrong, Court.
And yeah, I thought it was Kerry Lofton was kind of the utility guy for this movie. And the thing was, Kerry Lofton also worked on House of Frankenstein, and he was a young man. Kerry Lofton, worked with, all the way through the 60s. I mean, he worked with Steve McQueen. So he was a very young guy when he was doing these horror films and doubling for these older character actors.
Right, and here's the scene where I guess he sees, is it Heinz? He
Yep.
goes, you're traveling very fast, Heinz. What are you afraid of? You're afraid I'm going to kill you? Me, doctor? Why would you want to kill me? Because you're going to tell. It's like, what is he going to tell?
That he has seen his old friend change.
Right, right in front of his eyes. And I guess that's where he gripped, I guess, that little ring or ornament from his pocket. So it basically incriminated him. Also, we haven't mentioned this guy a lot. Court, what about the great Jack Pierce and his makeup?
This, of course, was the last real monster movie that Pierce worked on, although there would be some makeups required for the Spider Woman Strikes Back and House of Horrors and a few of the last movies from the Ben Pivar unit. But this was the last big one, and certainly his last time transforming Lon Chaney into the Wolfman, doing the Frankenstein monster makeup on Glenn Strange, etc., and creating a Dracula makeup for John Carradine. And old Jack could still do it. And of course, the great color image of the Wolfman in the jail cell. It was one of the very few color photographs of the makeup ever taken was from this movie.
Oh, okay. And you and I have also mentioned our love for, I guess, candid stills that are taken that aren't in the film. I found this color one of Jane Addams and Onslow in color. It's just beautiful. Check this out. He's holding up the cross, and I don't know what they're looking at. What do you think this scene is from?
This, I believe, is when they rush into Martha O'Driscoll's bedroom and chase John Carradine out.
Oh, okay. I was always wondering where that was. And of course, with that famous scene where he puts Martha O'Driscoll under his spell, where he opens up his cape in the library and he's ready to take her into the netherworld,
And there she is.
right? And then, of course, we have that last scene where Dr. Eidelman, it gets very confusing. Dr. Eidelman is turned into his evil character, and even though Lon is holding a gun on him, he doesn't care. He still comes forward. Do you think he kind of had a death wish where he wanted that Jekyll and Hyde kind of thing to end?
Oh, here for the ending. Absolutely, because remember, he's getting more and more sick. He is having the fantasies about the Frankenstein monster killing everybody and wiping out the villagers and all that stuff, which is one of the few action scenes that Glenn Strange as the monster has in the movie. But he asks Lon Chaney to kill him. Remember,
Oh,
because he's
okay.
getting more and more sick. He says, I trust you, my boy, to do the right thing, or whatever it is. And so Cheney, who is, of course, troubled because this is the man who has finally cured him of his lycanthrope curse, and he does end his life. But I think that's also an interesting element because didn't Lon Chaney keep asking Dr. Adamant to end his life. And instead, he says, no, here is the cure.
Mm.
So this is a man to whom he feels very indebted, but he has changed. He's been infected by Dracula. And so he says, I can't go on like this. I don't want to be a beast. I don't want to be a monster. And asks Larry Talbot to end his misery for him,
Right.
which is something Larry could sure relate to.
Right. Fine. Right. And he just ends up actually living. I mean, it just ends with him, I guess, and Martha. They're just exiting it. Right. They're exiting the castle and looking
Yeah,
at
he
it
says,
from.
look out the excuse
Bless you.
me, look out the Frankenstein monster, and everybody scoots out the door, and they knock over a couple of shelves, and then of course, for the end of the film, it is Lon Chaney and his double dying in the fire at the end of Ghost of Frankenstein.
Oh, okay. Yeah, a lot of those endings are very confusing. Like you have to remember which one. How many fires did the Frankenstein monster?
Oh, quite a
Right.
few.
How many glasses of acid did he turn over to start the fire? Or we know he goes into quicksand in another.
Well, it is kind of in a way truly the wrapping up, if you will, of the Universal horror cycle, because you literally have Lon Chaney running away from himself.
Oh yeah, yeah.
He's cured as the Wolfman, but now he is running away from the stock footage of himself as the Frankenstein monster, and that's the end of the movie.
Oh, it is. It actually is the end of the movie. So let's real quick. We'll talk about Lionel Atwill for a second. We all know that some of the troubles that he had uh, in Hollywood. But when he made this film, I'm trying to find a photo of him. When he made this film, I guess I already showed it, but I can show this one. When he made this film, he was actually dying of cancer. And I think he died 6 months later. Terrible tragedy. Tell us a little background on Lionel Atwill while we have him here. I mean, he used to throw orgies at his house, and he got into trouble with the law. I mean, what was his deal? Why do you think he was so troubled?
Well, the thing was, of course, when Atwill came to Hollywood in the 30s, he was a huge Broadway star, and he had kind of, if you will, an excessive lifestyle. But what he was actually convicted of was perjury. And it was that there was a case out there at his home, and that people were getting together and fooling around, and also screening adult films, which a young lady claimed she had been exposed to, and she was underage. However, that got recanted. It was a very complicated case, but Atwill stayed his ground. He insisted. I mean, he lied because he wanted to protect the people who he was entertaining. And he didn't want to drag anybody else into it. I mean, it was actually, he was, having a pretty wild time, but he was insistent that he would not drag his friends through the mud and involve them in any kind of a scandal. And that's what got him into trouble, because he was convicted of perjury. The conviction was later overturned, but the case had received an awful lot of attention in the press. And Atwill had been in movies with Greta Garbo and just aside from the ones we love, like Mystery of the Wax Museum and Dr. X and Murders in the Zoo and all these wonderful things, but nobody would touch him.
Right.
And of course, the famous quote is that except for the magnanimity of one studio, I should be a dead egg. And he was referring to Universal, but although he did also hire out to both to PRC.
Right. No, great actor. He's in a lot of great films. We'll probably do a show on Lionel Atwill in the future, obviously.
And I have an autograph right here.
Well, wait. Let's wait for that.
Oh, okay.
Wait for a memorabilia section.
Oh,
We'd be remorse. That's right. We'd be remorse if we didn't mention Jane Pony Adams. Outside of her hunchback Nina, she's basically known for Western serials. Court.
Absolutely. And she just passed very recently. She was a very, very nice lady. And I actually, we got to interview her for a special feature documentary on a Blu-ray release of House of Horrors.
Oh.
So he did a documentary on Rondo Hatton, and of course, she is the blind girl that Rondo Hatton is in love with in The Brute Man.
She can still play a mean piano chord.
Yes, she sure can. And but she was a very, very nice lady, and they liked her at Universal. But that was the thing; she was a good, solid utility actress. She knew what she was doing. She was very pretty, and but they kept her in, I think, if you will, kind of the B category, in the supporting actor category, which is unfortunately what happened to a lot of the actresses who were under contract to Universal at this time, just because Universal was not making the bigger films. When they did, certainly during World War II, say somebody like Louise Albritton, who we love from Son of Dracula, but she did a lot of wonderful comedies, she would get cast in the Universal pictures they were doing with John Wayne and Marlene Dietrich and people like that. But so many of the other actresses, even someone like, say, Anne Gwynn, they found themselves in the programmers. But also because they were good, they knew what they were doing, and they were very reliable. That was I think one of the primary reasons they were used so often, because they came on set, they knew what they were doing, and they knew their words, and they could work quickly.
No, absolutely. And we'll just finish up by mentioning the great mirror effects, as you said earlier, was done by Universal effects guru John Fulton. The story was by George Bricker and Dwight V. Babcock, who also wrote The Devil Bat, The Mummy's Curse, and She-Wolf of London, so they kept it in the family.
Of course, House of Horrors and The Brute Man.
Oh, that's true. And then Edward T. Lowe wrote the screenplay. He also wrote Sherlock Holmes and The Secret Weapon. So House of Dracula was his last screenplay. I guess that was it. He retired, Court?
I believe he did, because he had, like Bricker and Babcock, particularly that team, so many of these guys also, when they were rotating through Universal, these guys were also working in radio, and they were working in pulp magazines, and some of them even wrote comic books. So they were always at their typewriters. And so just if somebody, wasn't working on a screenplay for a movie, they were doing another kind of work. And that was very much a constant, particularly for the crew of writers who would work on things like horror assignments at any studio.
So now, Court, Boris is going to see us out, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us. Join us next time when we'll cover other topics like Universal Horror, Poverty Row, and profiles on people like Bela Lugosi, John Carradine, Peter Lorre, and even on myself. Until next time, stay scared.